Hey everybody! I don't know if we're actually live, but we're having technical difficulties with our normal setup, so Mike is lending us his phone.
Yeah.
And now he's going to go out to his car to get a tripod so Amy doesn't have to hold it for the next 30 minutes.
So Amy, you want to take the phone? I'll be back in a minute. It's still not notifying that we're on. That's the weird part.
It's not?
Normally when it goes on, so somebody's watching.
Oh good. Well then it's got to be working.
Yeah, so we're working. I'm going to give this to you, Amy.
So stand by. He'll be back in like 5 minutes. Maybe less. But we'll give a preview of what we're talking about today.
I also need my keys.
Me and Amy Bartlett are in the room.
Hey,
so,
everybody.
what?
Said hey everybody.
Hey everybody. So this week our topic is how we spend our time. And if you guys didn't get to see Michael's sermon on Sunday, usually he says like a funny story or like something where I can poke fun at him a little bit. But this week it was all very serious and it was moving, touching, but there was nothing to make fun of because of the seriousness of the nature of the message. Wouldn't you agree, Amy?
I would agree.
Like there wasn't a story where I can poke fun at him or like make a funny riff off of it because it was actually all very legit, serious. So if you're out there and you saw the sermon, comment if you have thoughts about what he said because and for those of you who didn't see it, we were talking about, he talked about eternity in a way that I have not heard someone talk about it before. So if anyone else is with me on that, comment. But so in essence, he was basically saying to be present in this moment, right here, right now, versus the way we tend to be drawn into looking backward at our mistakes or looking forward to what we wish would happen in our lives. When we are present in this moment, right here, right now, we are able to then make memories that you can draw on, you know, and so you create a form of eternity because those memories will stay with you. So at least that's what I kind of took from it. Amy, did you have any other thoughts about what that meant? That's kind of how I took it. And I had not heard that kind of description of how to participate in eternity before.
I completely agree with you. I was fascinated with the conversation.
Because I always thought of eternity as this weird, like, somewhere out there thing that we don't really understand, that's infinite, that's timeless. Like, I got all that part of it. And Mike's back in the room now. I got all that part of it, but I've never heard it explained before in a way of like, I can participate in it now by making memories that last and that are meaningful. And usually those kinds of memories are ones with people that you love. So that was an interesting way to look at it. I don't know what I think about that, Mike, to be honest with you. I like it because it made me think, but I don't know what I think about that definition of eternity and how to participate in it. So if anybody else had thoughts about that and how they interpreted that, or even just the way I described it just now, let me know. Oh, that's just going to fall.
All right, so we're going to have some...
So sorry, y'all, while the feed gets all...
Yeah,
wacky.
It's going to be a little wacky here for a second.
I was just telling our friends that you usually say something funny in a sermon that I can like make fun of or play off of or something, but nothing was funny. It was all very serious, and that's good. I mean, it made me think, and it was touching. You know, you were pulling on heartstrings, but there wasn't like I couldn't poke fun at something that you said or like relate it to something nonsensical like last week when we talked about washing our baggies. Like it just doesn't fit this week. There's nothing funny to say about it. So I gave him a recap of what you said about eternity and what that means and how we can participate in it by being present now and making memories that last. I mean, in essence, are you saying that your memories, even though we're not supposed to dwell on our past or whatever, but the memories are the thing that transcend time and space. Like they last because they get shared and passed down and all that. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're trying to say?
So the memories and then the stories. So our stories, right, are who make us who we are. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. And it's through the stories, memory. So for some people, so when I die and my kids are telling my stories, It won't be memories for my great-grandkids.
They were your memories.
My memories, but it'll be their stories.
Right.
And so our memories are important to share, but they become the story. And the Bible's the same way. Somebody had memories of things, and they used to tell these stories around a campfire or a dinner table. Then at some point, they wrote them down. Like, we came out of this horrible place in Egypt where we were slaves. Ooh, we should write that down. We wrote it down at some point, right? But where did we come from? Oh yeah, we've been telling those stories too. So here's Genesis, and then all the stuff. So I think one of the ways I would say we access the divine, God, the holy, eternity is through our memories and through our stories. Because you said it best, it transcends space and time. Like, I believe when we were accessing that, when we have this feeling, when the thing wells up inside you, that it's like you're there again. I told the story about my father-in-law in the hospital bed, and when I remember that, and I'm there in that room with him, I believe I'm accessing what I would call, I believe that comes from God. That's of God. That's the collective, part of the collective that I'm participating in that moment. And that's what makes up who I am and defines me, right? It's a collection of all those stories. And so when I access those, I'm remembering, I'm accessing, but you have to be present in order to have a memory. Like, we don't have any memories where we weren't present, right?
Oh, the whole first 3 years of my kid's life, I have no memory of that because I was just trying to get through it. Like, I'm just trying to survive. And so, I look back now and I try to remember, even when I see photographs of those things, and I'm like, I have no recollection of this time in my life whatsoever.
Do y'all experience that? I have times in my life. Some of them were painful. Some of them would have been good, but I wasn't present, right? And so whether it was I blocked it out or whether I was so busy that I didn't. I mean, I have years from when my kids were younger that were just like, I look at a picture and go, when and where was that?
Yeah.
Right? Was I there?
Like the sleeplessness and the worry and all the stress of usually at the younger time of your life, you don't have a lot of money.
Right.
So it's like all these pressures are on you, and you just the whole it's probably more than the first 3 years. The whole first 5 years of my kids' lives, I have a hard time actually picking out a solid memory from some of those.
Do y'all experience the same thing?
Is anybody saying anything about that, Amy?
She's typing over there.
I am having trouble seeing comments.
Oh, you should bring that
They're
chair
not
and
coming
put
up on my phone, so I can see
they're not?
partial comments coming up on yours,
Gotcha.
Michael, but
Well, we're going to keep the conversation going, and
Can you
maybe
see it on your laptop?
Yeah, can you get it on your laptop?
No.
I can't. It's on your page. It's on your personal page, not the church page.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
I thought I went in through the.
interesting.
Do we need to start over again?
Well, after the fact, you could post it to the church page, but yeah. If
We've
people aren't
got
finding-
people watching. We've got people watching. We're just the church internet clearly just.
Yeah,
isn't
we just,
working.
you know what? And so is life, right?
Yeah,
And
just roll
so
with it.
we can
Maybe you
be.
have a whole different audience today because it's your page and not the church page.
We'll see. If people, not everybody that likes the church so is friends with me. So there are some. Anyway, it's good. It's good.
Well, I think that's very interesting, and my question then is if some of the memories you do have are negative and define you in a negative way. I've got straight hair making me itchy. But a lot of people deal with past trauma in their childhood or whatever, negative things that they clearly remember and they can't not remember. How do you work with that in this way of understanding eternity? What if they're negative?
So there's this scripture, and actually, this is an idea from one of my books that I have a rough
One
outline
of your
for.
books?
Yeah, I have several ideas. Well, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to get a devotion out of my morning thing. We have somebody transcribing for us right now. Another one is called. So I say, and I got this from a former pastor of mine, Jeff Brinkman, who used to say, "See the good," right? And I use that language sometimes, but I think more important than seeing there's good around us is participate, be the good.
Be the good.
Yeah. And then I had this idea for a book that's called It's All Good. And what I mean by that is I've had, I didn't grow up the easiest, right? So I from my personal experience, I don't want to speak for you or anybody else, but my personal experience is there are a lot of bad memories. There are a lot of difficult things, even as an adult, that we've had to go through. And when I say it's all good, that's a phrase we would use all the time. There's a scripture, and maybe it's James, all things work for the good I forget the
Those
concept.
who love-
Those who love God, or
Yeah.
something like that. And that scripture doesn't mean that all things are good. And when I say it's all good, I don't mean that bad thing that happened. I don't mean that war. I don't mean that poverty, hunger. I don't mean those things are good. What I mean is when we experience something that's negative. I come from poorness. I come from poverty. I've been hungry. I've been homeless. I don't think those things are good necessarily, but it also made me who I am. It shaped me into who I am today. And so those memories that I have, I've had to learn over time through counseling and through other things that even though I used to look back on those and see it as a bad thing, it shaped me. So I can choose then to say that that negative thing can be turned and used towards good. So now I have the opportunity to adopt a son, and I had somebody who adopted me into their life, right? A lot of people who have adopted me into their life. Now I have a chance to go feed the hungry when people used to feed me. So you see, these things that we would say are negative, we can then also turn and flip and use. So the story is still
The story
important.
part of it is what you're reframing.
Yeah, well, the story doesn't change. It's still, it was, we're not on the church's page, right? Yeah. It was really shitty growing up. And so...
As long as we're not on the church's page.
Well, I can't get in trouble that way. If it's on my page, no, I won't get in trouble. But you know, it's those things were bad. But now so let's talk about the Kubler-Ross, right? 5 stages of grief, and now there's the 6th stage. So there's anger, there's denial, there's acceptance, there's dear.
What is it?
Finding meaning.
Yeah, finding meaning.
Or is that the 6th stage? I was getting to a point and I totally lost all of it. And now there's a 6th stage called finding meaning. There's negotiating. I forgot negotiating probably. And so when we find meaning in our pain, I believe, and we're going to talk about this a little bit on Sunday, I believe that our pain, it doesn't define us, but it describes us, right? So it can influence who we are. So we can take our pain and use that pain for good. So I can use those painful experiences growing up of the things that I experienced, and I can now use them because I know, right? I have empathy. I know what it's like to be that person. So it draws and ties me to them, right? And so I also go to, I believe that there are things that connect us in life. I call this the Holy Spirit. I call this God. And that when you experience something and somebody else experiences the same thing, I believe that there is a thing that connects us, right? Science kind of describes this. I'm reading a quantum physics book right now, so it's all interesting to me right now that of how things work and quantum entanglement and just all these ideas that are out there that I believe are beginning to describe my faith. And so even though it's painful and negative, we can use that to then go do good. Did I answer it? Is that too long of an answer?
Yes, but no. No, I'm saying yes, you answered it, I think. So then moving away from eternity and what that means, you say be present. We also talked about how we spend our time, and do we take a part of that, whatever that looks like. We talk about kind of the concept of tithing your time.
Right.
Do you take a part of that and use it for the good of others? And what does that mean? It's not just within the context of the church.
Correct. Well, so there are groups of people in this world, and so you have legalists, right, that want to write everything down, document, we want to rule and a law for everything, right? And I wouldn't consider myself a legalist, but I understand the importance of legalism. So legalism is just a documentation of here's a process, here's the rule, here's the thing that we can follow. And if we don't have that basis, right, because that does give us some basis of who we are. Without that basis, we could possibly lose who we are without some kind of rules, right? I mean, the same thing could be applied to our government, to our society, everywhere. And so without saying that there's at least a baseline of 10%, right? That's not the end-all be-all. There's our faith all the way back talks about everything that we are and everything that we have we should use for the good of all. But there are times in our lives where we may not have as much, and that basis is important. Like, the trend in America, not necessarily the rest of the world, the trend in America is when things get tight, one of the first things to go, charitable giving.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so whether that's time or money or whatever else. And so instead of, the $400 a month car payment and getting a cheaper, and so that sounds judgmental. I'm just saying, like, but our value systems are in those things. So in my mind, if we don't at least set that goal and have that number of, I can at least spend 45 minutes a day, right? And I try to break it down to the day. So take sleep out of it, take work out of it, because those are non-negotiables, right? But if you had 8 hours in a day of elective things, and by elective I mean your children's sports and the cooking, all those are elective things. So, but if we could take, and if we said that our community is just as important as anything, and that time is our most valuable asset, then I would think we would try at least to say, okay, I'll spend 45 minutes a day mentoring somebody. And for me, it's all relationship based. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I went and volunteered at the food bank. I'm like, great. Did you meet somebody new? Did you? Food banks are important. We have a food bank. We have, what's important is the relationship. The food is just a tool to build the relationship, because giving things to people doesn't change the situation. Investing in people while giving to them is what changes situations. And so if you're going to, my point is, if you're going to say at times your most valuable resource, how you spend it is important. So it's not just being present. Well, it is being present. So don't just go to a food bank and hand out food. Like, be present, interact with people, engage with them, like create memories instead of, where's my phone? Oh, my phone's up there.
Where's my phone? What? Be present, Michael. Your phone's right there.
Yeah. So that's not
have you
normal
been able
though.
to see any comments at all, or is it like just messed up with the tech today?
No, Chuck has some good comments. He just said, it's so true. Like it was said on Sunday, time is the most valuable commodity because it's fixed and you don't know how much you've got. Mm-hmm. And he said being present and being in attendance are two different things.
True. So true.
Earlier when you were talking, he said the first thing this interpretation of time and eternity does is make him feel even worse for reading something on his phone when his kids are around.
Oh, who does that? I don't ever do that. I do it all the time.
Bruno though says on a totally unrelated note, your shirt, Allison, is making her trip. Your shirt on camera is kind of psychedelic.
Oh, you know what?
It's almost like moving.
I actually know better than this, because video, like black and white, or white on video is always bad, but a small pattern on video, it does. It's like the video screws up. I'm sorry. I should just...
I do like the green. That's a good...
Is this better?
Allison likes to hug pillows anyway. So
I
we're
do.
good. Yeah.
It's like
it is comforting. I do them. When I sit on the couch, I always grab a pillow and like hug
security
it.
blanket for me anyway, so thank you. I might start carrying this pillow every week.
Oh, it brings back some memories when we were recording in your house. Remember that? That's how this started. This idea started.
Yeah, we used to do church in my house when COVID first started, and that was an experience. Like, church became something entirely different.
Yeah. Your kids hated us.
And we had to like dismiss my dogs from the world. Like, they had to be banished.
We took them out back and shot them.
Because they're so loud. We did not.
Amy's doing this in the background. I'm kidding.
No.
But you said dismiss our dogs. Like, that sounded weird. Like,
no, I just had to bribe my daughter to take them around the block for like a solid hour.
Yeah.
Every week. And there are technical difficulties everywhere. Even when we have church here, like half the time
we have
things
yet
don't
to have
work,
a Sunday
so.
where everything works.
Right, yeah.
We still haven't.
It's whatever. It's all good, Michael.
It's all good. That's the name of the book.
What else, Amy?
Chuck says Allison is covering up and Michael is cussing. We have managed to come back to the hilarity of washing Becky's.
Yes.
We found the humor, Allison. We found the humor.
It was going to have to be pretty serious.
Yeah, because there was nothing unserious about your message. But yeah, I'm glad we've gotten to this point where I can sit here with a pillow and everything's okay. I'm not letting go of the pillow in case anybody's on the edge of their seat. It's going to stay right here the whole time. So what? What do you do different, Michael? How does this impact you? Because your own message has to impact you as you write it. Like, I can only...
It does.
Yes.
Well, and so we talk about, I tried to give up guilt. I grew up in a faith community that was very guilt-laden, very heavy on the guilt. And I struggle with it. Mm-hmm. And you and I, we're friends. And so you know stuff about me that not everybody knows. She knows. It's my personal base that I'm an a-hole sometimes. And she also knows that I'm not always there for for my family. We've had this conversation. You're a PK. You know.
For those who don't know,
sorry, yeah.
PK means preacher's kid, and
Yeah.
yes, I was.
And so Allison is always a good gut check for me because she will look at me sometimes and say, "Mike, get your shit together. You're not like you need to be present more." And I hear that. If I hear that from my wife and kids is one thing, and so to hear from a friend who's outside that situation, she's always very careful with that, and she's also, because of that, careful with my time and what we do, and it's so good to me. But you know that I don't. The premise of this church is not, well, my faith in general is not that I believe people have answers or that people have it all figured out. I think the best spiritual guides, coaches, gurus, however you want to say that, those best people won't give you the answer, right? So it's like, there's a story I'll probably tell this weekend where a person is asking the spiritual guru or whatever, who am I? And the guru looks at her or him and says, "Who's asking?"
Huh.
It's. I don't believe we're here that I have any special knowledge or anything. What I believe is that we're here to talk about my dysfunction and your dysfunction. You can choose to talk about your dysfunction, right? Amy talked about some of her dysfunction. Which of the three of us is the worst?
Because it demystifies and normalizes for people so that they can feel free to not be perfect.
And because we're not here to be perfect, we're here to strive to help to be here with one another, right? The kingdom of God, eternity, however we want to describe that, isn't the absence of evil or bad or that we're all perfect. It's that we're living together and that we experience it together. And that's my, at least, view of it. And so, yeah, when I'm writing these sermons every week, a lot of pastors will say we're preaching to ourselves. And it's a big gut check because of all the things I talk about, this is the time thing. I'm an achiever. I talk about this a lot. And for some reason, part of my brokenness is that I don't think people love me, right? I mean, when it comes down, if we boil it down, I don't consciously think this, but at the core, when you unpack and bury all the shit, I'm not loved. People can't love me unless I accomplish things, and then they can love that thing about me, because otherwise I'm too vulnerable. If they really see who I am, they won't love me. Mm-hmm. So I like to accomplish. Like, we all have our things. That's my thing. It's one of my things. And so I struggle with this, and I also think that Western culture too also promotes this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're not alone.
I know.
I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to this feeling of, if I'm not accomplishing enough, something is wrong. And it's something we battle a lot. Like, if I'm not perfect, if I don't measure up, if I don't do this, if I don't accomplish that, then my wasted potential is something that's shameful,
right.
Or whatever. Or just me and just who I am is not lovable. I must create something outside of just me and just who I am, because that's not lovable enough.
She'll make me cry. I think
It's okay, but there are no tissues in that box. Just so you know, and just in case you start tearing up, there are no tissues in that there box.
When you say those words,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how we're having some real moments today. Allison, you can make me cry. Does anybody else struggle with this? I just do, and I don't know. It's the stupidest thing.
It's not stupid.
Oh, it's so stupid.
It's human nature.
I know,
because
but
we're very self-critical, and we know all the dirt, right? We know the very deepest dirt that we cover up, and other people will never see the deepest crap, But so who you are in your mind, like, I'm this thing that nobody sees because I hide it because it's bad.
Right.
And so I must manufacture this me so that people will love me. Like, I think that's pretty common.
It's earning. For me, if I earn it, right?
Yeah.
If I prove that I'm good enough. And that, of course, that all goes back to my roots. I was poor and I didn't have the clothes that I always wanted, and I got made fun of. Just all the things. And so I've always felt like I've had to. I should lay down on the couch for this part. Right? Just lay down. Allison's
You
my
mean
shirt
like
today.
therapy?
Yeah, like therapy.
I'm definitely not qualified to be a therapist, just for the record. But no,
But here's the
you
thing
can
I
see
know-
in other people too.
The important part of all this, though, is I have friends like you that, like, we're close enough that she can look at me and say, stop being an asshole. You need to be like, you do. And so she was like, no, you need to say no, Michael. She goes, how many times have you done this? I'm like, say it with me, Michael. No. See, she does this.
Just because someone wants you to do something
Yeah.
because you could be good at it doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right. Yeah, and often it's usually not good for you. So what my wife and I were talking about this, and I said, I feel like, so you asked me the question, the 10%, the tithing. So for me, what I've learned during COVID is every morning for an hour, after Mornings with Mike, I go and walk for an hour and I listen to books. It's my way of reading. I can learn through listening. Not everybody can do that, but I do better than reading. When I'm reading, you ever read 6 pages and all of a sudden you're like, what in the hell did I read? I gotta go back. If I'm listening though, I absorb, right? Because I'm in nature, I like to be outside. And now I've started doing it at night too. So I'll go out when it starts to get dark, like 7 o'clock, and I'll walk around the lake for another hour and I'll listen to stuff. And that has been so good for my soul, because there's a part of me there's a part of all of us. If we can't be present with ourselves, that's hard. Like to be there with your own thoughts, to be there in the moment, and with your own crap and baggage, and like to ponder. I'm a deep thinker. To think about that, to ponder that, I believe it's just like our faith. If we don't work out our own crap and stuff, how then can we assist them? Now, I'm aware of it, but for me, the beautiful part in all this is I'm always going to struggle with this, right? I'm going to work on it. But for me, the best part of this is I have people like you, or I have people like Amy, or other friends that can look at me and say, hey, I'm here with you, and we're going to figure this out together. Because that's or hold me accountable. I hate the word accountable, but you know what I mean? It sounds
Smack
so...
you upside your head.
Yeah, that. But you have to be... So, and I wouldn't... You have to be in a relationship with somebody in order to have that right. Because I have to give you permission to do that, right? I do. And I always tell you, you guys need to be honest with me. Ooh, here's a fun story. Allison's first year, maybe the first couple months in, I'm like, I want feedback on my sermons. And she goes, all pastors, she's worked for a lot of pastors. She goes, all pastors say that, but they don't mean it. I was like, no, I really mean it. She goes, do ya? And then, yeah, she spent the next 3 hours telling me how much I sucked. And so, she didn't do that. But from the very beginning, she's just like, I don't know about that. So I'm not saying go criticize everybody, but I'm saying when we're close, when we have a relationship, when we invest in each other, like we create the space. Because folks, listen, folks, friends, I don't usually say folks, we can't see our own crap. I mean, we can see some of it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we need others to help us through our own stuff. We took a turn. I don't know where we ended. It's okay.
Well,
where these things go is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole be present thing is where we were going, and just the struggle of being other places, either literally being other places so that you're not present with the people you are trying to influence or take care of or whatever, or if it's a figurative being other places where you're just mentally checked out.
Right.
Both are really difficult to control, I think.
And if you don't, like if I don't have that, we got time, Amy. Amy's telling us to wrap it up. We didn't start till 1:15.
What time is it now?
They can go back and watch later. It's 12:35, 36. So we can keep going for a minute. But I had a thought. Well, if you can't be alone with yourself and your own thoughts and be present with yourself, that sounds so weird. But if you can't, like I think it starts, I didn't talk about this Sunday, but I think a lot of that starts there. Like you have to, and we didn't even get into this Sunday. I had it way down in the notes at some point. The idea of Sabbath, so I haven't talked about this in a while, but Sabbath is deep in our roots in our humanity, in our faith at least, that we work for 6 days and that we isolate a day to be present. That's what Sabbath means, to take a break. Excuse me. Sorry. And if we don't intentionally take that space, right, and that downtime, alone time, and often it starts with just us. And if we can't do that, if we think it'll just happen, it won't happen in my life unless I create the space for it.
Right.
And so when we use the term that the Sabbath, Sunday, if you're not a church person, I'm sorry, these are churchy words. We believe that the natural order of things is that one day out of the week, that there should be time set apart for rest. And in the church world, we call that Sabbath, right? Historically, it would have been Saturday evening to Sunday evening, right? Now, and so that's why we hold church on Sundays. This is a deep-rooted tradition that a place of worship, a sanctuary, and a sanctuary means a safe place, is that we come to a safe place and we're able to be who we are, right? We're able to let down and be present in the moment. That is the premise of church. And so we sing and we do things to try to access that thing. But for people like you and me, church isn't that, is it?
Oh no.
Because we have to work.
Church is not that.
Yeah.
Well, it is now for me because I don't have to
Yeah.
do anything on Sunday morning. So.
Allison's not going to be here on Christmas Eve, and she's super happy about it. Don't be Allison.
For the first time
Don't be
in
Allison.
15
But
years.
yeah, no, be Allison.
But
She's-
yeah, no, I get your point. Like that's meant to be a time of rest, reflection, and if we don't create that in our daily lives,
Correct.
It sucks the life out of us eventually. And then what do you have? How are you present with your family? How are you present with your friends and your loved ones? So it is important.
Yeah, so I would say, that's why I broke it down to the day. Because if you don't allow space, if you wait till Sunday, guess what never happens? Sabbath Sunday never happens.
Yeah.
I mean, or you go to church for an hour, and then what I would say, you need to be doing that every day. So I push, when we do leadership development, I push that you're involved in some kind of daily devotional. It's why I started Mornings with Mike. It's just a brief thing to get people to think, to spend the time to slow down. And so I had to start doing that myself. Now, I still struggle, like I've created this space for me, but I still struggle sometimes being present with family and friends often. And so, again, we talk about marriage, we talk about date nights, right? Like, don't ever stop dating. Go intentionally do the things because you're trying to create the space. But even if you do date nights, what do we do half the time? I keep looking for my phone.
We watch Netflix.
And then chill. I'm on my personal page, it's fine. Amy's in bed there going, oh my goodness,
dear Lord,
stop
wrap
talking,
it up. It's
turn
done.
it off.
We're done. We're done, everybody. That was it.
Yeah, that's a good ending point.
It is.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
That's... We signing off?
Well.
Anybody have any questions? Anything spurring back there?
Bruna said, in finishing your point, she said you end up just continuing to go through the motions. So how do you make the time?
We lose our why. So we do, let's talk about that for a second. The motions, so we go to church and we forget why we're here. We're here, this is supposed to be a safe sanctuary, connecting with God,
Well,
the
church
holy.
has become something completely different in many instances
Yeah.
over the years. It's not the safe place to let down your hair is not what people think about when they think about church most of the time.
I think of judgmental Christians that,
That's where you do up your hair and you
Yeah.
put on the show.
Yeah.
So I think historically that has been the case. I think it's kind of shifting now to where more authenticity is what's cutting through for people, and what they're grabbing onto is the authentic way of being at church. But it used to be the Sunday show.
the production to consume. And there was some kind of...
Your Sunday best. That's what that's all about. Put on your Sunday best.
That's a phrase, isn't it? Ooh.
Yeah.
So, all right, Amy's smiling at us.
So make
like
time
we're-
this week for others. Make time this week for yourself.
Yeah.
Cut out some of the crud that isn't really going to matter in the end, because we all have stuff we could cut out.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And I think if you want a place to start, and I don't care, prayer, meditation, these are tools that we talk about and use that it starts with self, that you can, if you can start with just being present, and I'm not talking about 45 minutes in one sitting, about 5 minutes in the morning, right? If you can start that, and I believe starting your day, how you start your day is important. It's like some of the first things you eat for the day can influence your digestive system and everything. How we start our spiritual day, our emotional day, however you want to define that, is important. So just taking the 5 minutes to pray, to meditate, to ponder, to read, all those things I think is good. And I think that habit of doing it with self will help you to implement it then to
Toward other people.
Yeah. So
With that,
we're signing off.
It's time.
I'm Mike. Thank you for joining us.
thank you.
Peace.